Video, I want to talk about masculine and feminine energy and what can happen if you fall out of your divine one and ended up in the wounded. So most people, or everyone, I shouldn't say most people, every single person is born either a divine masculine or a divine feminine. Now what that means is, well, first off, opposites attract. So it doesn't matter what type of a relationship you have, if you are boy, girl, 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 boy, boy, whatever it is, there is one who is always going to be a masculine energy and one who's always going to be a feminine energy, because opposites attract. So divine feminines are very go with the flow. They're, they trust with their guts, their intuition. It's just very, free flowing and easy, and just life kind of, is just flowy essentially. Whereas divine masculines are very the strong, they're the caretakers, they are very, we're gonna stick to the schedule, this is the schedule, this is what we're doing. They're very hustle, hustle, hustle and grind, whereas feminine are not. So oftentimes, especially in today's world and the way that our world works, is that we can fall into the opposite. And when we do that, it's actually considered the wounded. So the wounded feminine or the wounded masculine. Now, for my own personal self, I am a divine feminine. I am very go with the flow, but being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, being a mom and a wife and a dog owner and all the things that I am, I tend to fall into my wounded masculine. Now, I was in my wounded masculine for many, many, many years before I even understood the masculine and feminine energies. And when I started to understand what they were, I went into my masculine as a way to protect myself from things that had happened to me previously in my life, or over the years, different things that had happened. So I went into my masculine to protect myself, and that was what I did for years. And when I started to understand the masculine and feminine energies, I made a conscious decision to step back into my feminine. Now, I'm not saying that once I made that decision that I stayed in my feminine forever and ever and ever. It's definitely been a roller coaster, because if you're not conscious of what is going on, if you're not consciously aware of the fact that you might be moving into your wounded side, it's very easy to fall into it. So what happened when I moved back into my feminine is that I became a lot happier. I stopped relying on schedules so much. I stopped trying to do everything all the time, because that was really draining me and making me very unhappy, because that's not who I am. I'm a very free-flowing person. I like to go with the flow. I like to trust my gut. My husband and I are very different in that sense, where he's very analytical, so all of his decisions are based on facts, whereas my decisions are based on how I feel about a situation. So same thing, like for masculines who are in their wounded feminines, they stop being the hustler, they stop doing all the things that they were doing, they kind of fall back and they let the other person take over and take control. And another thing that can happen as well is if one person falls into their wounded side, they can actually push their partner into their wounded side. So for me, I actually most recently figured it out that I was in my wounded masculine for a really long time, to the point that I was like getting really angry and I was unhappy. I was constantly mad all the time about everything. And then when I realized it one day, I was like, oh, right, I'm in my wounded masculine right now. And then when I was looking at my husband, I actually noticed that he was starting to fall into his wounded feminine. So then as I stepped back and went back into my feminine, that allowed him space to start stepping back into his masculine. So that is something that we all need to be very aware of. Now, sometimes it's as easy as just saying, you know what, I'm done. I'm going back into my, my divine state. And sometimes it can take some healing depending on what puts you in that wounded side. There are a lot of things you can do. There are meditations, you can do tapping, like basically anything that helps to heal you spiritually, in your soul, in your body, just makes you feel good. I know a few people who are very much having a hard time stepping back into their feminine, and it takes time. So for the feminine, if you are in your wounded masculine and you constantly feel like you need to do everything and you need to hustle, and you're doing things that you don't even want to do, but you think it's what you have to do, some things you can start doing right away is just blocking off 5 to 10 minutes for yourself and start meditating. Start raising your vibration, start making yourself feel better, and that is going to help. Also, what I tell some people, some of my friends specifically, who I have in my mind right now, is to just stop trying to do it all. If you are a business owner or you have something that you do in a day that is not just, your regular activities of being with your family or whatever it is you do, step back. Just take a step back. Don't try to do it all. If you can only get an hour in, just get an hour in. If you can get 10 minutes in, that's 10 minutes more than you would have got. But especially for those who are stay-at-home moms, a lot of us tend to try and do everything. We try to keep up with the dogs and the house and the kids and everything, and have friendships. And then, a lot of us want to be business owners in some sense or another, whether that's an entrepreneurial journey, or if you sign up under a company, whatever it is. And then they push themselves to these points where they're not happy anymore. And I know, because I did the same thing. I was not happy anymore. I was doing things that I didn't want to do, but I thought it's what I had to do. And as soon as I stopped forcing myself to do these things, as soon as I started stepping back and allowing myself the freedom to go with the flow and do what I could when I could, and being okay with that. So not just doing it, but being okay with it is a huge thing. But once I did all those things, I started to very easily stay in my feminine. And I can very much now pinpoint, as soon as I'm starting to move back into my masculine, I'm like, oh no, I don't want to be there. And I come back into my feminine. Now, that's not to say that you're not moving throughout your feminine and your masculine all day long, because you are, especially if you work, right? You go to work and you have to do your work and you have to follow a schedule, and that's a very masculine thing to do. And then when you come home, you can fall back into that feminine, but just noticing what state you're in, which energy you are in throughout the day is really going to help you. And then allowing yourself to step back into your divine when you are done being the other energy. And it's not always wounded, but a lot of times it is, especially for people who don't know about the energies or don't understand it, or don't know that they're in their wounded. They think that they're in what they're supposed to be. And then same thing for the divine masculine. Like when they're stepping into their feminine, they become very unhappy as well, because they're not feeling like providers. They're not feeling like they're accomplishing things in life. Whereas if they just step back into their masculine and they allow themselves to be that person and hustle and do the things that they love to do that makes them happy, and if that is following a schedule and just doing things by the book, then that's what makes them happy, then they need to do it. So that they're not constantly unhappy, feeling worthless, and all the things that can come with it. Now, those are very extreme situations. Obviously, not all the time it's going to be that bad. And then even with the masculine, they flow back and forth between feminine and masculine. There is no, it's not like this is men and this is women. There's no such thing as that. It's just energy. It's the type of energy. It's the yin and the yang, or the yin and the yang, however you pronounce it. It's the, it's the opposites of everything is what feminine and masculine are. And we all have both energies inside of us. We just have to learn what our divine is, what our natural energy is, and then try and be in that as much as we can, because that is where we are going to feel states of happiness. We are going to feel good. We're going to feel like ourselves. Yeah, and that's all I have today. If there's anything else you guys want to add to this conversation, go ahead and drop it in the comments below. And if you're enjoying my channel, please hit the subscribe button. If you liked the video, hit the like button, and I'll see you guys on the next one.